How about you? Recovered?
Right, now we're recording.
Okay.
I'm not sure what happened there. It logged me out even though I was previously logged in. All right. Technical issues today. Let me find. Sorry, let me find the right screen. All right, can everybody see the screen all right? Okay, I don't think Andrew has joined us, but we had a meeting a couple weeks ago where we talked about Puma infrastructure memory team topics. I've run through this doc a couple times. I didn't see anything that was not covered with issues or assigned to folks. So does anybody know, are there any outstanding issues? And even Andrew said he hasn't had a chance to look at this, or he didn't mention anything pressing right now. So is there anything blocking, any outstanding issues on this that we need to address or assign?
I don't think that we have any like major blockers. I think that there are like I noticed some inconsistent metrics, which is like not related to Puma itself, but pretty much out our Prometheus metrics monitoring that would really help to get into shape. I think even though like we have these items open, there is like no clear like deadline and like action point on who is doing what and executing what. And this is probably like the most missing piece at this moment. That we have a bunch of the issues, but I think that we did not involve enough people into importance of this item, of this agenda.
Okay. A lot of the work, I mean, it's covered in Puma, if I'm recalling correctly, and some of it's, there's not like one overwhelming theme on this work. It's kind of scattered everywhere. And a lot of these will be addressed by once we get done with the Puma work, right? So is it something that we should address after we get Puma shipped in 12.2, if we hit that goal? Or enough of these related that we need to readdress with Andrew and spend some time scheduling this work out?
I would actually say that half of these items here is like we need infrastructure engineers to start implementing these things and enabling that. Yeah. The second half is really us focusing on testing and like figuring out the like some performance benchmark, what Chan did start the issue some time ago. To actually have some understanding about the baseline and when Puma does perform well and in what circumstances does not perform. Because it seems that like it's good enough, but we don't have like conclusive data exactly what we want, what we gonna like, how we expect the system to behave while we enable that on, let's say, for everyone on GitLab.com. And this seems like the two biggest missing pieces, like testing, like performance testing, scenario testing, like load testing, as it's mentioned here. And the second one is really like, we need people that are gonna start making these changes on the staging canaries that's gonna like enable that. They're gonna like figure out what other metrics they need and what they don't understand about the system, and we help them fill the gaps. We are right now working like with the quality team on the testing part, but there is nothing happening on the infrastructure side, and this is probably like the biggest thing that is right now missing.
Okay. Maybe, so here's what I'm thinking. I can ping Andrew to have him join us next week. Tanya and Grant, I don't know that they were, well, Grant for sure wasn't in on previous discussions about this document, so they can maybe take some time this week to take a look at it and see if they have any feedback or if it maps to any of the initiatives they're working on. And then we can come back to this next week and maybe with the planning that you and I are working on this week, we can figure out where the gaps are and make sure that the infrastructure team has them covered for what we need. that make sense?
John, do you have some recommendation who should we reach from like the infrastructure team? Because it seems like the Puma is like the top one priority for like enablement and infrastructure team. And I think that like it would be really helpful if we could have someone from the other side be like very deeply involved in our meetings about the Puma.
The only person I've met from infrastructure is Andrew, and is he even on the infrastructure team?
Andrew is like a distinguished engineer from the infrastructure team, but recently Andrew like was really overwhelmed with the firefighting.
Right.
So I would really look at the Andrew like, let's say, approval, but like we need someone that would really focus hands-on on these items.
Okay. I will find the right person to reach out to.
Previously, we had John Jarv help us with the on-prem. Any settings we want to do, changes that we wanted to do on-prem. John Jarv was helping, but recently he recommended reaching out to Greg Miskill.
I'm sure I'm spelling these names wrong.
I guess that's fine. So Craig, C-R-A-I-G, Miskill, M-I-S-K-E-L-L.
Yep. Okay. All right, so on to the next. So talking about 12.1, we're about halfway through the milestone. Link to the issues. So Camille, you had a couple of comments in there.
Nothing really screaming. I'm curious about like Alexi and Chinyo. How are you doing on your part? Because it seems that like you did work through the current assignments pretty much, or like you're almost at the end. So I think the question is really to you, like, do you have a handle of like what is next for you to work on?
As for me, I started to make myself familiar with the issues you shared, the two ones. Also, Craig commented on Puma, but as we discussed with Camille, we are probably not going to handle it, right, from the start. I guess I'm looking into these two issues, one with CI, another with Omnibus, and I'm going to comment on any of that. Which one I'm going to start first?
For my part, for the issue 62270, if we don't need to handle the profile URL, then I think the MR is ready for review. But I also prefer we have a pipeline for other issues, because I feel like when I work on some issue, and sometimes I'm blocked because I'm lacking of some information in my daytime. Then if I have several issues in the pipeline, I can go to look at other issues. So that will make, I think, my time more productive. So I think look at more issues at the same time maybe work better for me.
Yeah, that's something Camille mentioned in the chat. We'll find some more issues to pre-assign to folks. And when we plan for 12.2, we'll make sure that there's plenty assigned for folks for the whole milestone. So, and to Camille's point, they can be changed whenever they need to, just like 490 was changed from Camille to Jan today. And the reason I mentioned that one in the ticket for for Qingyu and Alexi is 490 is pretty straightforward. It's a setting that needs to be updated, and it's pretty well defined in the ticket. It shouldn't be a long-lasting ticket. So if either of you are looking for something to do, it's a candidate to take off of Jan's hands so he can focus on, I can't remember the other ticket he's focusing on, but something else.
Yeah, okay. Just, okay.
So Alexi and Gina, I think that I assigned like 2 issues for you that are like follow up on the derived benchmark, and like one is like related to CI builds measurement, I think, and the second one is like for omnibus monitoring. So I would say like let's just figure out between you like who just gonna figure out like what to work next. I think it would be like the most efficient way for you to talk and comment on the issue about like the ideas, plan, proposals on like how to approach that. It kind of, I think, falls into affinity of like what you are working so far on.
Yeah, so here's all the issues that have been assigned to the both of you.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let's see, recruiting update. So I've asked for 5 candidates to be screened. Actually, I've asked for 6, but one of them was rejected pretty quickly. 2 of them are being screened right now, are scheduled for screening, and one of them passed through to a technical interview. So that's just for engineering. For product manager for the memory team, we have a really strong candidate that Chun and I have worked with in the past. I interviewed earlier this week. She interviewed with product management and has an exercise that she needs to return, I think probably tomorrow. They have an interview, and then 4 days later, the candidate has to return their vision as part of the exercise. So get more feedback later on this week. Hopefully she moves forward. Larissa's fantastic. So any questions on recruiting? All right. This is just a reminder. This isn't picking on anybody. I haven't really seen any examples of this not happening, but one I didn't put in there. So one goal that I have for the team going forward is moving issues towards epics so that we can better reflect the progress of our work instead of just working on one big ticket over the entire milestone. So create an epic that describes the work that we're doing and then break out the smaller tasks that individuals are working on and close them and have a single MR per issue. And that's reflected in the next bullet point. The other thing I forgot to put in there that I've talked to a bunch of folks about is making sure that the description is updated with any decisions that are made in the comments below, because often our issues can get fairly chatty and have dozens of comments, and the direction of the issue may change, or there may be some technical decisions that are reflected in the comment but don't necessarily make it back to the description. So if you see that happening in the comments, please update the description frequently and make sure that reflects any recent changes in the comments. I see Chun typing.
Yeah. So just a general heads up, the dev organization is shooting to move to the CD model. Right now, the delivery team is still strengthening or smoothing the deployment process. There are still many errors or failures there. But once that's sorted out, we are going to move to the CD model. So that may require a lot of practice changes in our process. So at this point, I haven't seen any articulated process how to move to there, but we can think about it. And Geo team is going to practice that first. So they have something laid out already, and I asked the Geo team to document their learnings and the lessons, so we can, we don't need to repeat the same mistakes.
Awesome. All right. Any questions or comments on this one? Nope. All right. We had the 12.0 retro earlier this week, and memory team didn't exist for 12.0, so we didn't have to deliver anything. I would encourage you to take a look at the previous team's retro, so we know what we have to deliver for 12.1. I've already set up the async retro space for our team so that we'll automatically get tickets created. We do have one set up already for 12.1, and we can start contributing to it. I would recommend, as things come up, because a month is a long time, like things that go well, things that don't go well, just start adding them to the ticket as you encounter them rather than waiting till the end of the month, because often we forget something awesome that happened, and it's hard to forget things that are terrible that happen. But please update the retro issues frequently, and feel free to add whatever you want, and then those will all get rolled up into the company-wide retro at the end of the month. As for the 12.2 schedule, it's not ready. There's nothing to preview yet, so Camille and I are going to work on that tomorrow and try and get more specific tasks for this team, and especially get a timeline for when we get Puma out to production. The goal is to have it live in production by the end of 12.2. I don't know how feasible that is yet, because there's going to be a lot of dependencies and potential blockers, but we're going to try and lay out a timeline to get Puma live in production on 12.2. Any questions? Nope. All right, and then the last thing on labels. So it's one of my tasks to look at the labels of issues on a regular basis to make sure that we have the right labels on what we're working on the MRs, make sure they are identified correctly, and memory team's doing great, no concerns there. I haven't seen any MRs without the appropriate labels on them, so that we can gather metrics correctly for the engineering org. That's it. Anybody have any other topics they want to cover? All right, I will take that as a no and stop recording.